Hi, my name is Charity DeLeon. I'm here to share my family's experience with a local nonprofit that claimed to support families like ours during crisis. What we lived through was not support. It was deception and manipulation during one of the most vulnerable moments of our lives. I'm choosing to speak out because families deserve honesty, protection, and transparency, and because staying silent would allow this to continue happening to others. My only intention is to bring truth to light so no other parent has to walk through what we did. I want to start at the very beginning. My son Tobias was first diagnosed with B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia in December of 2022. He had just turned 2 years old. And like any parent who hears those words, our entire world collapsed overnight. In those early weeks, we lived in the hospital, at doctor's appointments, and in waiting rooms, just trying to hold ourselves together. That's when POST, short for Pediatric Oncology Support Team, entered our lives. Their team would come into the hospital room, sit with us at appointments, and bring in gifts for Tobias. At the time, I believed they were there to support us, because we were drowning in grief, shock, and survival. Soon after, the CEO, Barbara Abernathy, began building a very personal relationship with me. She would talk to me for long stretches of time, learning about my life and challenges and who I was. I also have a daughter with severe special needs and have a deep belief in truth, awareness, and using my experiences to help others. This was something she realized very early on. At the time, I didn't realize how intentional that was. I was a mother in crisis, open, vulnerable, and trying to process the trauma of what my child and our family were living through. Looking back now, one of the things that stands out the most is that she intentionally avoided any kind of paper trail. Every important conversation happened either over the phone or in person, never through email, never in writing. At the time, I didn't recognize how unusual that was. Every other organization we worked with always documented their communication. But with POST, there was nothing. No transparency, no written follow-up, no accountability. Just verbal promises made in moments when I was vulnerable and trusted her. I shared a lot with her, not just about our medical situation, but the deeper emotional and spiritual layers, the pain, the fear, the grief that only parents of critically ill children understand. She often told me I had a way with words, that the way I spoke resonated with people. I thought she meant it in support because she knew that I was writing a blog about our experience and that I had social media platforms for my son's journey. I didn't realize those conversations were being used to learn how to position me later on, not to help us, but to benefit the organization. During those early months, they referred us to other nonprofits when we needed financial help because I had to close my business to care for my son. POST themselves never helped us with bills or major needs. Over the whole time we were there, we received a few gift cards, a couple for food, a few for gas, which I now know are actually donated to them. That was it. Everything else came from other organizations they pointed us to. Despite that, I showed up for them every time they asked. I did multiple videos and allowed them to use Tobias for photo shoots for their fundraising efforts. I allowed them to use my son as the ambassador for their 5K walk. I even did a radio interview for them. Ironically and painfully, the day of that 5K, my son was on life support. And while we were living through the darkest moment of our lives, I later realized that the image of my son fighting for his life likely benefited their fundraising efforts tremendously. Then came the Seasons to Share fundraiser in 2023. The way they approached me about it was rushed, last minute, and very pressured. There wasn't time to think or process. It was presented as something we had to decide right away. And at the time, what we truly needed was a safe, reliable vehicle because of the constant long-distance trips to the hospital. It was Barbara who told me directly, "We'll put you down for $25,000 to get you a new or used van." That number came from her, not from me. And at that moment, I trusted her. I believed she truly wanted to help my family. But everything that happened after that story was published is where the truth of what Post did to us really begins to show. Several months passed after the Seasons to Share fundraiser, and I heard nothing from Barbara. Eventually, at one of my son's doctor's appointments, I approached her myself and asked her if there was any update. She told me she would call me later to discuss it, and she did, over the phone. On that call, she said that the funds raised for our family were nowhere near what she had expected. She told me that they would pay a couple months of bills, but that was all they would be able to do, because she claimed she wouldn't have anything left over to support other families. And she said it in a way that played directly into my heart, my desire to help others, my belief in community, my grief. I trusted her. I believed what she said. I had no reason at the time to question any of it. Over the following year, though, something inside me began to shift. My husband had felt uneasy with the organization from the very beginning, but I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, Barbara continued the same pattern. Long conversations about how I had a way with words and how I could help them again with videos or future projects. It always circled back to what I could do for the organization, not what they could do for us. It wasn't until my son's ringing the bell ceremony in April of 2025, which Post hosted, that everything finally broke open for me. By this time, well over a year had passed since the Seasons to Share fundraiser, and despite the confusion, I was still genuinely grateful for the help we had received from the Seasons to Share fundraiser. I didn't have anger or suspicion. I truly believed she had been honest with me. I didn't even know that I had the right to contact the program directly to find out exactly how much was raised for our family. No one ever told me that. The day of the bell ringing, something felt off. My family felt it too. What should have been a joyful, sacred moment for my son, after everything he had survived, just didn't feel genuine. After the ceremony, a news reporter who had covered our story from the beginning of treatment and was there to witness it, pulled me aside to talk. She was doing a follow-up piece and wanted to interview me about that moment. While we were talking, Barbara walked over and sat down next to me, and immediately she shifted the conversation toward promoting the organization. Normally that wouldn't have bothered me, but this was my son's moment. After an over 2.5-year battle that nearly took his life, that moment belonged to him. That moment belonged to our family, not to an organization. Then Barbara began listing all the things Post supposedly provides for families. And as she spoke, something in my body reacted. I could feel my face growing hot. My posture changed. I locked up. Everything in me felt a disconnect, because what she was describing were things our family had never received. That was the first time I allowed myself to recognize the truth. What she was saying did not align with our lived experience at all. A few hours later, after sitting with that feeling, that knowing, I called the reporter and asked her not to include anything from the organization in the final video, to please keep the focus on my son's ringing the bell ceremony only. And in that moment, I made the conscious decision to separate from Post going forward entirely. 2 days later, I received a phone call, which I did not answer, and Barbara left me a voicemail. I still have the recording. There was no greeting, no congratulations, no acknowledgement of my son finishing treatment. Nothing human, just a cold, flat message. Hi, Charity, this is Barbara. I'm calling to find out when the story is going to air. And in that moment, everything became clear. The manipulation, the one-sided relationship, the pattern, the truth I hadn't wanted to see. So I finally contacted the Seasons to Share program directly, and what I learned shattered any remaining trust I had. They told me that $36,000 had been raised for our family. We have it in writing that Post would help us with $25,000 toward a newer used vehicle. Post only helped us with $11,219.89 towards bills. They could have helped us with the full amount, and still had thousands left over to support other family. But they didn't, and they never told us the truth. The deception, that's what broke me. The dishonesty, the way our family story was used repeatedly for fundraising. And then came the realization that we were not the only family. I reached out to several families, close to a dozen. Only one had ever received financial help. And even they had to ask for months before that help arrived. Every other family told me the same story. Poe sent them to other nonprofits to get help, just like they did to us. So I began to dig deeper into public records, financials, and everything I could find. And that's when everything I suspected started becoming impossible to ignore. As I kept digging, the pieces started coming together in ways I never expected. I learned that my family wasn't the only one. There were multiple families who had experienced the same kind of deception. And among them, I found 2 other families whose stories were also used for Seasons to Share, just like ours. And they too were misled about what was raised in their name and how those funds were distributed. At that point, several of us approached an investigative journalist. A lot was uncovered. But the truth is, these nonprofit systems are built with layers of red tape that end up protecting organizations, not families, not the people actually living the trauma. I eventually withdrew from the investigation because my purpose is not to get lost in bureaucracy. My purpose is simple. I want the truth to come out. I don't want any other family to experience what my family went through. I don't want anyone to be manipulated at their most vulnerable moment. I want parents to recognize patterns before they fall into the same trap I did. What happened to my family was unethical. It was unprofessional, and frankly, it should be illegal. There is no accountability when funds are raised using a family story, and then those funds are not actually used to help that family as committed. The hardest part has been the fear around me. There are people who know the truth, many of them, and yet everyone is afraid to speak up. I was even warned, what if they come after you? Come after me for what? Telling the truth? Sharing documented facts? Because I can show receipts. Just because something is posted online by a nonprofit organization doesn't mean it's true. Financial records don't lie. Patterns don't lie. And the lived experiences of families like mine certainly do not lie. Even former employees have quietly confirmed what I discovered. They know, they knew, and still they're afraid to speak. So, since all of those around me that know the truth are afraid to speak up, I will be the one to speak up, even if I'm the only one, because silence protects the wrong people. The emotional impact of this betrayal is something I struggle to put into words. Families in pediatric cancer are already carrying a weight that is unimaginable. Many lose everything: their children, their homes, their stability, their marriages, their mental health. My own family had to relocate and downsize just to survive. And all the while, we believed in an organization that claimed to be in our corner. We trusted someone we thought cared. And when that trust is violated in the middle of the darkest chapter of your life, it changes you deeply. This is why I'm sharing my story. Not for attention, not for drama. Because the truth is light, and light exposes what has been done in the dark. I want other families to feel empowered to speak their truth. I want them to see the red flags I didn't know how to see. I want the nonprofits that are helping families, the ones who actually show up, who provide real assistance, because there were several who helped my family, the ones who stand in integrity to receive the full funding that they deserve. Those organizations that helped us and other families, those are the ones worth supporting. What happened to us was wrong. It was harmful, and it should never happen to another family. Taking advantage of people in their most vulnerable moment is deeply, profoundly wrong. It is darkness, and I will not stand by and let darkness overshadow the light anymore. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and hear my family's story. Please, if this resonates with you, if you believe in transparency and believe in protecting vulnerable families, please help me share this message. Please help me shine the light on an injustice that is happening, that happened to me and has happened to other families and is quite possibly happening to more. Please help me bring a stop to this. Awareness is the first step toward accountability, and your voice can help ensure no other family goes through what we did. Allow us to bring light where there is darkness. Thank you so much. Many blessings. Goodbye.